Welcome to Homemaking with Mima. My name is Wendy, and in today's video, we're going to be canning potatoes, and I'm going to bring you along with me. So today's project is I'm going to can up another bag of cranberries. I've already done a video on that, but I'm just showing you that it's in the process again. I'm going to sterilize my jars, and I have to run these through some hot water so they're not completely frozen. And yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. And I've got some stuff in the roaster here, so I took up some of my table space, but that's okay. So a project I've created for myself. So I washed all my jars last night. I've got my lids, they're washed. I've got my water pre-poured out. I filter my own water. Here's my potatoes that I cut and cubed up yesterday. I'm going to rinse them out or rinse them off before I put them into the jars. I'm just now starting to get my stuff set up here. And as you can see, I've been doing some canning. I did the cranberries, and I looked into my book because I can never remember. But for potatoes, I looked to see how much time I needed for them and headspace. I have a huge dish mess here. It was a busy day yesterday, and in the evening, I was like, that's it. I'm exhausted because I already had done all these. And I got my canner preset, the correct amount of water in there, and I'm going to turn on that for my lids. All right, so I'm gonna get this started. Okay, so I got my little station set up here to can my potatoes, and I also got my USDA book out here open to the page, so I know how long to cook them for in the pressure cooker and the headspace. The last night, I washed up all my jars, made sure they were clean. My lids as well. I'm gonna get the hot water in it. The potatoes I peeled, and I've showed you that. And I had them sitting in cold water in the refrigerator. So that helped take any starches out, but also it helped me for today because then I don't have to do that. That's a tedious job. I am going to be doing what I consider rebel canning. I am not going to cook my potatoes before I put them in there, kind of like a par cook. The ball, even the USDA home canning guide suggests to do that. They're going to cook in that pressure cooker because I'm doing pints. They're going to cook for 35 minutes. I did it once before, and I even used yellow potatoes. They're like Yukon potatoes. And the potatoes were just way overcooked. So I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to do a little bit of rebel canning. I don't suggest this to you unless you feel comfortable. I feel comfortable. I've been canning now. I've been canning for about 5 years. My potatoes are going to go in raw. So this kind of canning is going to be like a cold canning. Okay. My jars are room temperature. My potatoes have been sitting out, so they're room temperature, and I also ran them under water. I have room temperature filtered water, and my canner is not even on. So I'm not going to compromise my jars at all. And that's what you would call like you starting your canning out cold. If you're going to be using a hot product, like let's say I pre-cooked these, then I'm going to make sure that my jars are hot, my canner is turned on, and the water is hot because the product's going to be hot. And my water would have to be hot as well. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do it this way. So I'm just going to bring you along. I do have more potatoes. They're over here. I cut up 2 5-pound bags of potatoes. My canner can fit 14 because I can double stack it. We'll see what I can get in there. And yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and start that. And last night see all the dirty dishes? I was just so exhausted. These are all clean. Okay, you see that mountain of whatever? So I'm going to be busy while I babysit this in the house, because you can't leave it, while it's processing. And what I'm going to be doing is the dishes again. So I'm just going to bring you along while I get this done. And I'll just remember, this is going to be a 1-inch headspace, so it's going to be to that rim right there, or you're going to use your tool all the way to the bottom one. That's for measuring. A vinegar to wipe my rims. I don't put salt in mine. If you do put salt, definitely make sure you wash your rims. But I always just do it just out of pure habit. I got to get these soaking as well, because I want to make sure that the product is softened up enough so that when I get it in there and I get it going. All right, I'm gonna get this all started up now. I did forget to mention that I can at 10 pounds of pressure, which on my canner, it shows you right here. I have the All-American 10, and you want to get it up to 240 as far as the pressure. And so you're gonna have to look that up in your for your area. That's very important. And because you're gonna have a solid product in there, once you get the water in there, even though it looks like you're gonna not have to debubble, just debubble so it doesn't compromise your seals. It's just do it. I mean, if you feel comfortable not doing it, then so be it. But just do it, and then you don't have to worry about, did I debubble? Is that why my seal didn't take? So that's just a little extra. Okay, so I've got them all in the canner. This is how many potatoes I have left. This was 2 5-pound bags of potatoes, so 10 pounds. This is what I have left. I believe I'm gonna make mashed potatoes out of these and freeze them if I have to. And you did see me, when the rings don't fit well, I just crush them up and recycle them. Because sometimes you can get, when you get jars, you get extra rings, and you can see that I have an abundance of rings. I don't store mine with the rings on. You can just buy just rings as well, so I'm not worried about them. All right, so I'm gonna bring you over to the canner and show you what I do next. So I have 2 layers in here. When I use the wide mouth jars, I can't get 14 in here. I can get 14 small mouth jars. I can only get 13 wide mouth jars because of the width of the top, but I just thought I'd point that out to you. So with that All-in-American, I've shown you before, I have to use Vaseline to put around the metal here and the metal right here. You have to do it probably like every 3 canning sessions, and I can feel that it's still really good. So we'll get it on, turn it to the latch position. And to make sure that you've got it on there evenly, I just use the debubbler so that I can slowly tilt the canner lid before I actually, and I go around the whole thing to make sure that it's as even as possible just by eyeballing it. Okay, so again, the All-American, you bring up the 2 sides of the lid screws. You don't screw them on tightly, but you do them across from each other like you've seen me do before. Once you get them all on there, then you can screw them down tightly. As tight as you can get it. All right. I'm not going to have this on high. I'm going to put it between 5 and 6 that's on my stove here. So like a medium high. And we're going to bring this up to temperature. It's going to take a while because the jars were cool, the product was cool, the water I put into them was cool, and the canner is cool. So it's going to take quite a while before I get it up to pressure, so that I'm going to wait for it to steam. Once I see a steady stream coming out of the vent here, then I'm going to set my timer for 10 minutes, let it vent for 10 minutes. Then I will put my weight on. And at my level, like I said, I pressure can at 10. So I'll be putting it on like that, and you'll see me doing that. But I have to bring it up to temperature. Like I've said, you got to stay near your canner. I have plenty of things to do right here next to the canner. Not that it's going to take the whole time, but at least I have something that I can get done, which, yeah, it's a mess. I won't bring you along for the whole thing. So while I am waiting for my pressure canner to come up to temperature for canning my potatoes, I did the cranberries yesterday, and I do have a video on that. I will put it in the description box below. But I'll show you how I do all of my cleaning the next day. You just take all your rings off, and you look to see if any of the seals are broken, and I don't see anything yet. Then you test your seals. So you're going to push on them, and if there's any give at all, then that seal was compromised. It's still good. Just put it in the refrigerator and use the product up, within the next few days or week or so. But it's still good. You can just leave the lid on it, put the ring on it, and put it in the refrigerator. Another way of testing is you just grab the metal lid and you just lightly lift it up. And if you can lift it up by just that lid, sometimes it takes you a little bit. Oh, you know what? I just noticed that I have a chip. Let me see if I can get in closer. I have a little chip right there. So this one I am going to put in the refrigerator because I don't want to set it on my shelf just in case there is a compromise. But it is right there. So this one I'm going to put in the refrigerator. All right, put it in the refrigerator. So that kind of thing, it just happens. I've washed my jars after I open them up. I use the product, I wash them, I put them down in storage. When I bring them back up, I wash them again, and I check everything. But you can miss things. If I hadn't have been standing at the angle that I was, I would not have noticed that chip. And I didn't feel it, because when you wash them, you just feel around your rims to make sure that they're, you don't feel any chips or nicks or any of that. So that's just a good tip. So then I'm gonna check these two. Now I'm gonna check. There's no chips. Good. Press down in the center. There's no give. Lift up by the seal. Those are good. That one's good. Now yesterday, when I was taking this out and I had my grabber, I just went and grabbed my grabber. I had my grabber. I noticed that I did not grab it around the neck of the jar. I ended up grabbing it like this. And I'll bring you in closer. Do you see how I grabbed the lid? And I noticed that, but I just went and I set it on the counter, and you can see this is a discolored lid anyway, so I remembered that. So I'm not going to risk it with this one either, because when I did pick it up like that out of the water bath canner, I could hear the lid do like a suction, like it had opened up. Now it may have sealed itself while it was sitting there hot, because sometimes it just takes them a while to do a complete seal, and you can hear the pinging of the lids. But I'm not going to risk it. So now I'm going to have 2 containers of cranberry juice, but we can't break into these for at least 3 to 6 months. So these are going to be moving around in my refrigerator. And yeah, you can see that the cranberries, they look horrible, but the water doesn't. Okay, the cranberries look bleh, but the water doesn't. So anyway, I'm still going to check this one. I don't hear any movement of the lid, and I can pick it up. So it may have sealed, but like I said, I'm not going to risk it. I'm going to put this with this colored lid. I'm going to put that in there. And then later on, I'm going to write on both of these, not to open up. I'll count like 3 months out. And we'll be okay with it. It'll be fine. So now, all I do is I just take my scrunchie sponge, and I do this with all my canning. I scrub the top of the lid around around where the metal lid was, the ring. And then I scrub the whole outside of the body with hot soapy vinegar water. And that will take off any residue from hard water deposits to the best of its ability. And if you had any seepage at all, it will take care of that too. And it's just cleaning your jars up. I've got a steady stream, so now I am going to set my timer for 10 minutes. So now I was able to get my weight on. I want this to come up to 240. Mine usually goes between 241, 242. Sometimes it pops up to 243. It just all depends. And then once I have that going, then I'm going to set my timer for 35 minutes, because that is what the book says for pints. So 35 minutes for the white potatoes. And now that it stopped jiggling so much and making so much noise, now I have to let this completely cool to the touch on the outside before I even take my lid off. It's all part of the canning process, especially for pressure canning. I'm going to show you This is how you take off the All-American. I've shown it before in my other videos. This is cooled down enough. And there, it gets on there so tight. Loosen them up like you put them on, across from each other. Once you've got them loosened up, then you finish it off. Now I have a hard time. I have arthritis in my hands. So I just grab the knife sharpener thing and I just put it underneath it, just a smidgen, to break the seal. And it's broken. Usually it's not that easy. Never that easy. Because it's cold, let it sit cracked for at least 15 minutes. So that 15 minutes is up, and whoop, even though I tilted it, still open it away from you. There could be some residual steam. You just don't want to burn yourself. And so I'm going to take these out. I got to get my lifter. Here it is. All right. It is empty. I have a little bit of coloring to it. There may have been a little bit of seepage, but I'm not worried about it at all. There's no chunks of potatoes or anything in there. And I'll bring you over to see what they all look like. So here they are. This one is still a bubbling. They look really good. I'm going to cover them with a towel, and like I say, I'm going to tuck them in for the night. All right, so you've seen my process of how I do my potatoes. A little bit of rebel canning. I don't pre-cook them. I mentioned that in the beginning. If you feel comfortable doing it that way, then do it. Otherwise, follow the USDA home canning guide. I will have a link to this in the description box below, as well as me canning cranberries. I showed that earlier in the video. So the potatoes are done. I wanted to get this done before fall, and it never happened. My husband's going to be happy because that's why I do the pints. He likes to fry up potatoes when he's on his day off and makes himself a big breakfast. He likes to have fried potatoes, and he loves it this way. I do have 10 more pounds of potatoes down here. I will be doing those in quarts. I won't bring you along for that because I just showed you it's the same process as the pints, except for you process them a little bit longer. So that is it. I want to thank you folks for joining me today in this venture of canning. I know it's January. A lot of people do Canuary. Is that how it is? I'm just trying to get caught up. I mean, I was going to do this in the fall and it never happened. But it's happened now. And I'm happy. I'm happy about it. If you like this kind of content, please give it a thumbs up, share with family and friends, subscribe to the channel, and I want you folks to make it a really great day.